This was the major form of entertainment for the American public. Hundreds of thousands of people from all over would go.
It was huge. It was exciting.
It's something we should be very proud of.
It was all about being in the ice show. We knew right where we were going. We were going to perform and perform and perform and have a great career.
The ice was all painted black. There was a film of water over it, so it was like a mirror. And there were beautiful girls and boys skating in white costumes all around Sonia Henne. And I said, that's the most incredible, magical thing I have ever seen in my life. I have to do that.
My guest tonight, Roy Blakey, has been on my radar since I started the show last May. Roy has led a wonderful life and is the subject of a documentary called The Fabulous Ice Age about the 100-year history of dancing on ice and Roy's quest to save that history. Joining us in the studio is the director and producer of the award-winning documentary, Keri Pickett. The doc is available on Netflix, Amazon, iTunes, and DVD.
At the time that I met him, he had something like 4 different units of his Holiday on Ice shows.
What an entrepreneur.
2 in the North America, 1 in South America, 1 in Europe, and 1 in Asia.
Wow.
I worked for Morris Schalfen for about 8 years and went to 40 countries, traveled twice around the world.
You're making me jealous now, Roy.
With the most incredible experiences and wonderful times. All of that was just, there's that whole thing. I'm the luckiest guy in the world.
I would say so.
Over and over again.
I would say so.
And then at the end, my last touring show was South America. And I said, I'm 37 years old, I should find myself, you know, I should get out of this business and find myself a place to do my photography. I knew I was going to be a photographer because even during the years that I was skating, they would take me out of the show to take pictures if the King and Queen of Thailand came or these different...
You're killing me.
Yeah, and how did we set the show up in that building last time? So I started, they had me photographing the setup of the show, each town where we were. So the company came, you know, gave me a lot of photography jobs to do. So I knew I was going to be a photographer, and I thought the best place for me, since I loved all the tropical countries that I had been in, I should go to California and where the movie business is and to photograph actors and actresses, you know, in the movie business.
That makes sense.
They fly us, after we finished in Rio, the South American tour, I said, well, that's sayonara to my skating career, but here I come as a photographer. So I get to, my plan they dropped us off in New York, and my plan was to stay 3 days and visit some friends. And those friends at dinner talked me out of going to California and that I should stay in New York if I wanted to photograph actors and dancers and musicians and
what year would that
entertainers.
have been?
67, 1967.
Wow, 1967.
So I looked around and found myself a loft at 6th Avenue and 24th Street.
What did you pay for it back then?
And stayed 25 years. My 3 days stretched out to 25 years.
How much did your loft cost in 1967?
I think it was $130.
Wow.
Could that be? That's the thing. And I thought, oh my gosh,
It would go for about $2,500
am I going?
At least.
Am
More.
I going to be able to afford this $130 with this my burgeoning I'm giving birth to a career
Right.
that I have no background in,
Right.
but here we go again.
Yeah.
I'm building. Get this loft.
That's the name of your autobiography. If you haven't started, here we go again.
I'm dividing this loft into the studio
Right.
and my home in the back. And the phone rings, and a couple that I had skated with in the Hilton Hotel in Chicago were on the other end of the phone, and they said, "Hi, Roy, this is so-and-so, and we're now directing the ice skating rink at Rockefeller Center, and we want to put on this little exhibition of skating 4 times a day, and we're looking for people to be, in that group." And I thought, oh my gosh, I have never been a big soloist,
Right.
And they said, and you'd get 2 meals a day, and
I'm in.
Your salary, a salary of 2 meals a day, and any lessons that you would give there,
Right.
you get half the price. I said, I'll see you in the morning. I'll be there. So I went there and had this wonderful career in the biggest ice skating, the most famous
Right,
ice skating
in the world.
rink in the world, middle of New York City.
Right. Rockefeller Center.
Every night I looked, and when the lights came on, it was just magical. It was magical. I said, how did you get
Right.
here?
Here we go again.
And then it got cold, and then the snow began to come, and it wasn't quite so wonderful as it was in the fall, where
Right.
it was just beautiful.
Or skating down in Rio de Janeiro.
So I said at the end of that, when the season was over, I said, well, there again, my luck. That was the perfect time when I was working, trying to start working in a new career, and I could make some money to keep me alive while
Right.
I was doing that. So I said, well, that was a very lucky thing. That'll never happen again. Because they never advertised that we were going to skate at 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock. If they happened to be standing around the rink, they saw our little exhibition. And I said, they're not going to do that again. Well, they called me the next year and said, can you come back? And we're giving you more money. And so I said, let me think about this. I said, Roy, you've never been to India. That's one place that the ice skating show, which had been there previously, didn't go when I was in it. I said, why don't you save your money, take the job and save your money and go to India? And I did that. So.
God, do I feel like a loser next to you. 40 countries, now you're going to go to India, you're living in New York in 1960. I applaud you. I applaud your courage. I applaud your tenacity. And most of all, I so admire your good luck.
Then after I finished my 25 years in New York, and I say, it's time to move on. And I had come to Minneapolis, and Keri had her bout with cancer, and she stayed in Minneapolis and got a studio here. So when I came for Christmas or birthday celebration or whatever, I said to her, I want to see your studio. So we went down to the Ford Center, and she had this wonderful studio with another young lady who was a photographer. And I said, how much do you have to pay for a studio in Minneapolis? And I fainted on the floor when it was so much less than I'd been paying in New York.
Right.
So I said, I think I should come to Minneapolis and we should get a studio together. So that's how that happened.
Wow.
And then we got the best building that you could possibly get.
Yes. No, and I know. Should we say where it is?
Sure.
It's right on East Hennepin, a couple doors down from the Terminal Bar, which I've always said is the most aptly named bar in Minneapolis. And about, what is the cross street? Is that 5th Street?
4th.
Yeah, 4th
Southeast
Street.
4th.
Now, are you open if folks would like to come?
By appointment.
By appointment. And what's the phone number?
612-627-9938 for Roy.
And I welcome people who are interested.
Who want to come see his collection,
Yeah.
Stage Archive collection.
I almost every week I get a call of somebody saying, you know, I saw the documentary, I would love to come and see your collection. And I said, tell me when you can come.
I need a much bigger place, a much bigger place.
Roy Blakey's collection. I worry about it finding a home.
And we don't want it to just disappear. We want it to be in a place where people can see the wonderful posters and the beautiful programs and know that all of this took place and how wonderful it all was. So that people know that it did happen, know who made it happen, know where it took place, and how these great pioneers totally changed the face of entertainment.
This program is brought to you in part by Iron Range Resources and Rehabilitation.
I want you to meet Two Gingers Irish Whiskey. I'm Kieran and I'm Irish, so I tend to like a challenge. Why not? I wanted a whiskey to help find me out what's out there. Like what's really out there. And I found the oldest distillery in Ireland with a water wheel and awards for its small family of whiskies in the middle of Ireland. As I've always seen it, you can't win the lottery unless you buy a ticket. So try it. The investment is small and the flavor is big. Now, it's perfect for drinking neat. Its character holds up, like the Irish, when the bastards try to get you down. Two Gingers Irish Whiskey. Distilled twice for more character, time for more flavor, and less of the old burn. Nolite bastardes carborundum. Don't let the bastards get you down.
Grumpy's is the place to be for Art-A-Whirl and our 20th anniversary bash on May 19th. Superchunk comes to Grumpy's Northeast May 19th to promote their first album in 5 years, What a Time to Be Alive. Join the fun May 19th for Art-A-Whirl 2018 and jam with Superchunk at Grumpy's Northeast.
Keri, you filmed some very famous skaters, like, tell us who.
Well, in the course of doing the film, I met so many people, and there are some supers in the film. 7 shows are covered, from Ice Follies, Ice Capades, Sonia Henney, Hollywood Ice Review, Holiday on Ice, Tom Collins, Champions on Ice, all the way to Disney on Ice and Stars on Ice. And so the entrepreneurs who started those shows are featured, perhaps a star of one of those shows is featured, and the cultural context and political context of that time.
Right.
And so you cover in the film, it goes through this 100-year history. And in the course of doing the documentary, yes, I filmed Dick Button, who is seen in the film fighting over Charlotte's skates with Roy, because they're both avid ice skating memorabilia collectors. And Charlotte was the very first star of the ice show. She played the Hippodrome in 1915. It was supposed to be a very short run. It ended up going for years and changed the whole face of figure skating as the elite embraced figure skating, and it turned into the tank show period where the hotels and fine dining places would have these ice skating shows in their hotels. And so Dick Button met Charlotte, and so it was like a direct connection to one of the very first stars of the ice shows, Charlotte. But then we go through all the way to like the film I, Tonya is out right now about the Kerrigan-Harding incident.
Right.
Well, Nancy Kerrigan is in my film, and that incident that took this whole beautiful film, I, Tonya, is maybe 3 minutes in my documentary. It was, and so it, Scott Hamilton is in the film, Nancy Kerrigan is in the film, Jojo Starbuck is in the film,
They all have,
Ken Shelley is in the film.
did they all have an appreciation of the history of dancing on ice?
Well, the one thing that I wanted to do with the film The Fabulous Ice Age is I wanted to make it a film that would be for people who didn't know anything or think that they even cared about figure skating, all the way to these superstars and people who have dedicated their lives to the ice shows and figure skating. And I found that people always tell me, even those people who have been in this industry, that they learned things that they didn't know.
Right.
And then people who don't really care about figure skating look at me and they're just like, I can't believe I cared zero zilch about figure skating, and I loved your film.
Wow.
It clips along at a really good pace, and you know, it's a really important part of our American history. And I think that part of the reason that it had never been tackled as a documentary film before was, first, there's all these filmmakers out there who think that they're going to get money to make their film, and or they're going to get paid to make their film.
Right.
And I recognize that that is not the most important thing about making the film.
Right.
It would be wonderful if a person would get paid, but you know, I did my film out of passion and love for Roy and love for this story.
Right.
And I think I was super lucky as a documentary filmmaker because I had Roy's Ice Stage Archive collection, which I don't think we've had a chance to really make it clear, but Roy has not only been passionate about figure skating since he was 10 or 11, but when he was 10 or 11, he started collecting this history and keeping the paper pieces, keeping the programs. He wrote to the Conrad Hilton when you were a kid.
To the Pierre Hotel, to the Hotel New Yorker,
Right.
This posh place.
As a
I'm this
kid.
little teenage kid, you know, do you have any little programs or anything? The Roxy Theater was a, I don't know if you know about the Roxy, but it's one of the grand movie theaters in New York City.
Okay.
And they had first run 20th Century Fox. They opened their new big films in the Roxy Theater, so it was prestigious.
Right.
But in addition to that, between the showings of the film, they had a live show, a symphony orchestra. I can't tell you what all was involved there, but it was,
Including Sonia.
Famous, well, but wait a minute. Famous singers, comedians.
Right.
That was a.
It's where Frank Sinatra really got.
And then they would show the
himself,
movie again, and then they would show the live stage thing. Well, they ultimately did an ice skating segment in the thing with the orchestra and everything, and that was so popular that they did away with the chorus and the the singing chorus and the this and this. I'm sure they kept the orchestra and put the whole stage was ice, and for a number of years they brought, with each new film they made a new stage skating show. And so I wrote to the Roxy Theater, oh, do you have any program or something? They put me on the mailing list. Here it comes to Enid, Oklahoma, directly from the Roxy Theater.
How exciting.
Faithfully. And I later worked there, but I, of course, wrote the Hilton Hotel, and the girl who took the reservations for that room where the ice show was would send me little, programs and little things. Oh, Bob Turk got fired this week, So I'm kind of getting in the whole thing.
Funny.
And so when I decided to start doing The Fabulous Ice Age, I hit the documentary filmmaker jackpot, and his luck cascaded down to me.
Right.
And I had this man's archive of the entire 100-year history. You can't believe all the posters, programs, pins, costumes, memorabilia that is packed in our what is supposed to be a photo studio and is no longer a photo studio. It's now a museum. And so whenever I would be, I would be at a certain point, I would say, well, what do you have about Sonia in the 30s? And what do you have about Sonia in the 40s? And I would just simply walk 10 feet into his archive area and then march it back to my area, scan. And so I got to learn organically through his archive, and his archive informs the film.
The Kerrigan Harding thing, that changed the face of figure skating. And what those two young ladies did for figure skating, it really put it in the big time. January 6, 1994, the media really took off. It changed the world of figure skating. It was unbelievable, the business. I've got the stars, Disney's got the kids. Instead of sitting there watching these big productions, all of these bodies out there in costumes, people would rather just take my kids to see a kids show, totally. And you want to see skating, go to Champions on Ice. We slowly took everything away from the ice shows. And that's what happened. It's sad. It really is sad. And nobody knew about it at the time, really. And nobody meant to do it. It just happened.
Keri, when you just started to do the film, self-funded, I'm sure.
Yes.
Maybe you had some friends throw you a few bucks. How far along were you in the process? And I'm saying this for any wannabe filmmakers out there. Did you go, geez, I think I've got something that maybe Netflix or Amazon would eventually be interested in? Or did you have to finish it all yourself?
I was able to, I worked through all my savings. Then at the very end, there was like a point when one of my editors was not going to be able to be paid if I didn't get some help. And at that point, the first person to help me was Tom Collins, of the Twin Cities, and his show was Champions on Ice. And so he was the first person who really believed in me. And then in order to bring the film home, people like Ken Shelley and Dick Button and my mother, BJ French, really came in to help a lot at the very end. And so I did do an Indiegogo campaign and got maybe like a little bit of help. But it was really self-funded, and so I premiered at the Minneapolis St. Paul International Film Festival in 2013, and the film was chosen for Best of Fest and won an audience award and had some extra screenings. And then my very first film festival outside of Minnesota was at Napa Valley, in Napa Valley, California. And there they had 4 screenings in 4 small towns around the wine towns. One of the screenings was at 10 a.m. or 10:30 a.m. on a Saturday morning, and I'll never forget just thinking, who in the world is going to be at this town at 10 a.m. on a Saturday morning? Well, the place was packed, and after the screening, everybody stood up and gave the film a standing ovation and lots of whoops, and we really did experience that a lot. So at that screening, after the standing ovation, these 2 people came up to me afterwards and said, well, I'm a representative from Netflix, and I can help you get your film distributed. And so I went home and I thought, well, that sounds really, really nice. Well, then they called me, actually. And he said, well, I was being grilled about what I saw at Napa Valley, and I came, as I was speaking about your film, they all at Netflix said, well, we want that film. And so it was right before the Olympics, the Winter Olympics in Russia. There's a scene about Roy going to Russia and almost getting arrested in the film. There's beautiful footage of Russia in the film. And so Netflix rushed helped me rush with my distributor and get the film on Netflix in time for the Winter Olympics.
Timing, as they say, is everything.
And so it actually went live on the night that my film had a huge premiere in New York at Lincoln Center.
Wow.
And at the Walter Reed Theater, I got a huge standing ovation in my sold-out show at Lincoln Center.
Nice.
And then at midnight it went live, and that was the weekend that the Super Bowl was in New Jersey. So of course New York City thought they had the Super Bowl. It was
right, sure.
just like that, and so it had had a nice mention in the New York Times that weekend.
Beautiful.
In the weekend paper. So it was like, you know, from me as a person who started my career in New York City,
right.
It was one of the highlights of my life to have
and
that.
So how long did the whole film take from the
Almost
moment?
8 years,
8 years
to produce the film.
Roy, you must have been so excited to finally see it on the screen.
There are no words to say how much I owe to this wonderful young lady.
I'm honored to say, Wall Apart TV, we've told a little 1,000th of the story with my guest Roy Blakey and his niece Keri Pickett. Roy, I got to ask you, because you've led such a, in a way, a magical life, but you're very talented, both as a skater and a photographer, and as a human being, and as an archivist.
Oh my gosh.
Truly, what would you tell any young man or woman out there, young boy or girl, about following their dream and how it works out for you, and how that is essentially, from listening to your story, what life is all about, correct?
It's kind of organic. I mean, what did I know? I just knew that that was something as a child that struck me, and I thought it was so magnificent that I just wanted to see more of it and be, I don't know, intelligent about what was going on. My advice would be follow your dream. If you really love something, go for it, you know.
And you did, and it worked out, and your lovely niece, Keri Pickett, has documented in a great film, The Fabulous Ice Age, 100 Years of Skating on Ice. Roy, I'm honored to have you on my show. I'm honored to call you my friend. I want to come over and look at the archives over there on East
Terrific.
and hang out, and then we got to go for a martini at Whitey's afterwards. Is that a deal?
Absolutely.
Gin or vodka?
Well, I'll just have a beer.
There you go.
I'll have a martini.
There you go, Keri. Thank you so much. This has been wonderful. And thanks for watching the Wall of Power TV show. I'm your host, Paul Metsa, and this was just a delight. Roy Blakey and Keri Pickett. Stay tuned. We'll save your seat for next week's show.
Someday